In this video, you're going to find all of the noobiest mistakes that you will make and continue to make, and then probably hear me tell you about them and still continue to make. Number one is using the quick upgrade system in the shop. Don't do it. If you play the game a lot, or if you intend to play the game a lot, don't do it. I talked about this in my ultimate beginner's guide to Marvel Snap. You just don't want to go there. You're essentially trading your credits, which are finite, with boosters, which you can almost earn an infinite amount of. You don't want to do that. Number two is thinking that cards like Lizard and Medusa are good. Medusa's okay when you get started, you know? It's simple to learn and teaches you a little bit about placement mechanics. You place her in the center location, she gets an extra 2 power, she ends up with 4 power. It's fine, but the more you play, the more you'll realize that 4 power isn't that good. When you compare Medusa with other early game cards, let's take Angela, you'll see there's a big difference here. With Angela, she starts at 1 power, sure, but she gains 2 power every time another card is played in this location. And you have control over where you play your cards. That means if you play Angela, most of the time you can pretty much guarantee that she goes up to 7 power. 7 is a much better number than 4. Lizard is an even worse example of a card that early players seem to think is good, but it really isn't. Lizard is 5 power for 2 energy. That seems okay at first glance. Not only that, but unlike Medusa, you can play Lizard on the left or on the right if you'd prefer. It's still 4 power. The problem is Lizard drops down to 2 power if your opponent plays 4 cards at the location where you play Lizard. And guess what? That's something your player can just do most of the time. Yeah, sure, there are specific decks that have lots of big cards where they can't just go around playing 4 cards in each location, but that's not something I'd want to bank on. A lot of decks can do that really easily. And so most of the time, if you're playing Lizard, you're just guaranteeing that you have a 2 energy, 2 power card. That's not good. Speaking of Angela, certain cards like Angela, Bishop, and Ant-Man that you will find in the early game can change their power over time. Bishop in particular really is one that catches new players out quite often, because if a player has played all 4 cards in one location, then you may think, oh, that's it. That's as much power as they're going to get there. But if one of their cards is Bishop, they can surprise you by playing a bunch of cards in other locations and buff Bishop, meaning that your opponent has just won a lane that you thought that you had locked up. In Marvel Snap, generally, it's a really good strategy to try to only win 2 out of the 3 lanes. And if you know for certain that you've won a lane, obviously you don't want to put any extra power there. But keep in mind, there are certain cards that can buff lanes that already seem full, like Ironheart, Mr. Fantastic, or even Claw. These can be great when you're just starting out, because a lot of the time players don't expect you to suddenly gain power in several locations at once like that. And again, if you can trick an opponent into thinking that they've won a location and then win it by using Claw or something like that, congratulations, you just won 8 cubes. The next biggest mistake that people make all of the time is not retreating when they've lost. I get it. You want to see how the game is going to end. It's exciting. I'm right there with you. But you are just going to throw away cubes like that. When you're starting out, I think it's really good to let games play out, because it'll help increase your game knowledge. And the better your game knowledge gets, the better you'll be at snapping. When you start to get a little bit more experience and you start to have a good understanding of what's going on, when you've lost, get out of there. You should only ever be playing it out all of the way if you're sure you've won. I mean, you know, if you think you might have won, but you might have lost and there's only 1 or 2 cubes on the line, big deal, just let it play out. But if you've snapped and your opponent snapped, and finishing turn 6 will be the difference between 4 and 8 cubes, and you've got a strong feeling you've lost, just retreat. I would even say that mastering the snap mechanic is more important to your rank than actually your ability at playing the game and your deck itself. Learning to retreat is so important. And the final newbie mistake that new players can make is forgetting to hit the sub button. The final newbie mistake that new players can make is actually forgetting to play around Cosmo. Cosmo is one of the first tech cards that you'll get in the game. While it's in play, on reveal cards at this location will not activate. And it's something new players forget a lot. Obviously, when you're just starting out, you're not really looking at the cards your opponent's played. You're focusing more on what your cards do and trying to piece together a strategy. It can be easy to forget that there's a Cosmo there ending your strategy before it even begins. I even still miss Cosmo from time to time now after loads of experience playing the game, and I guarantee that you'll do it at some point as well. So be mindful of that, and maybe, just maybe, you'll save yourself some cubes. If you found this video helpful, you may also find my ultimate beginner's guide to Marvel Snap helpful. You can find that right here. Bye.